All right, welcome everyone. My name is Coach David. I am here with financial aid secrets to make sure that all of our families know what's going on with financial aid, right? So we're going to talk about the basics of financial aid. More specifically, we're going to be talking about the FAFSA and the CSS profile. That is not all that there is, but in this short amount of time that we're given, I do need to make sure that I give the most information possible. So we'll go over those two. We'll have other sessions that go over the rest of the documents as well. Okay. So if you guys can help me by putting your child's grade in the chat, that would be great, just so I know exactly what's going on and who's here today. All right. So the agenda for today. So again, I'm going to intro us a little bit, right? For our new families, I see a lot of new names in the kind of participants here. So welcome, right? So we'll do a short welcome there. We'll do a little bit of financial aid news. So there's new presidents, new policies, new lawsuits, new everything that's going on. I will give you an update on what's going on there. We're going to go over financial aid basics, what it is, and how do you get it. And then I'll also tell you about how our program can help you. Okay. So first off, who are we, right? We are Financial Aid Secrets, right? We're here every single week, minus some holidays. There are some holidays coming up, right? Like Thanksgiving, right? But I'm actually going to be here on Wednesday because I want to make sure that people have the most up-to-date information. Okay. Also, there is, Christmas coming up, right? And so there are different holidays, but we're going to try to be here as much as possible to make sure that you guys have the information that you need. Okay. Now, as far as kind of like, our program and financial aid secrets, we have a Facebook group. If you're in our coaching program, you already know that there's a financial aid support channel there. We want to talk to you guys, right? I think the worst thing that can happen is that, you come to our trainings, you kind of do all of the things that you're supposed to do, but you're not able to do it in the exact 100% correct way. And then you're not able to get the money that you deserve. Okay. So if you have questions, please reach out to us, right? I'm open to kind of sharing everything that I know and kind of the different things that can help your family. Okay. So our financial aid secrets has been around for 15 years, right? We're here to make sure that families can save money. Okay. And we have saved families a lot of money. Okay. Some families, like, if for some families we're on like their third or fourth kid, we've saved them close to $1 million over the course of their 4 children. Okay. So just keep that in mind, right? The money is there to be taken. All right. So to financial aid news real quick, and I'm going to go really fast today. So if you need to take a screenshot of something, please do, but I'm going to be going super fast because I have about 50 slides I have to get through. Okay. So I told you about a lawsuit that maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago, right? There were colleges being sued that were basically undercutting the financial aid that was being given to students of parents that are divorced. Okay. And so just a quick update, Harvard, Yale, and MIT have also been added to the list of defendants, right? They are also getting sued. So hopefully this kind of makes the financial aid process a little bit more transparent. And hopefully it makes these schools a little bit more generous to opening their pockets to families that need money. Okay. Now, I also talked about last week the new administration that is coming in. Okay. One of the key kind of, or like, well, not key, but one of the points that, President-elect Trump had made was that he was going to get rid of the Department of Education. Is that likely to happen? Probably not, right? Because Congress would have to approve it. Now, I believe the Congress is held by the Republicans. So technically, is it a possibility? Yes, but there would be a huge kind of like chaotic mess if it was gone, right? Schools would no longer get funding, right? There would be no more standards in place to tell us what students need to learn before they're graduating, right? But the biggest thing for kind of like financial aid is that if they did disband the Department of Education, then what would happen is that $27.2 billion in student aid that is given out every year would no longer be given out. Okay. Now we will have to wait and see what happens, right? A lot of people make promises. I remember when I was running for president in 5th grade that I promised soda in the water fountains, right? Did I ever actually do it? No, I did not, right? But I was still chosen, right? So just because someone says it on their campaign trail does not mean that it is actually going to happen, but I will keep you guys updated on what is happening. Okay. Now let's go straight into the basics because again, I want to get through this. I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time. Okay. So let's get some things out of the way first. Okay. I always make this joke and no one to this point has actually shown me a Ferrari in their driveway. But if you have one of these red Italian sports machines in your driveway, I cannot help you. Okay. But if you are like everyone else, right, that is here and you want to save money, right? then you should pay attention today. You should sign up for a consultation, right? If someone offered you a discount, would you not take it, right? If someone says, hey, if you fill out this Yelp review, I'll give you a 10% off your bill. I am on Yelp faster than you could finish saying Yelp. Okay. Now, we're not talking about mere dollars here. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars per year. So if this is something you're interested in, right, listen up for the next 20, 25 minutes. Okay. So let us see what needs to get done, right? So this is the process, right? There are a lot of different forms that need to get filled out, right? There's FAFSA, CSS profile, IDOC, there's school-specific forms, verification forms, and then there are schools that ask for additional information. They might ask for pay stubs or this or that. It could be really anything, right? But today we're going to talk about the two main forms, the FAFSA and the CSS profile, okay? So let us jump into the FAFSA. The FAFSA is a gateway form. This is a form that will be turned into every school that you apply to. Now, having said that, there are some kind of like exceptions. If you're going to some kind of vocational school, there might not be a FAFSA for you, right? The school might not accept it, and the federal government might not fund that particular vocational school, right? But if you're going to any of the kind of like state schools in your state or private schools, right? Any other college, university in the United States, like a four-year institution, they will accept the FAFSA. Okay. That includes community colleges. Okay. Now, as far as where to apply for the FAFSA, right? The open date for the class of 2025 is December 1st, right? The class of 2026, I'm hoping that they will open on the normal date of October 1st, but for the class of 2025, it will be December 1st this year, right? Now, make sure that you're going to studentaid.gov. Okay. Now, this is a little bit of an aside, but I was actually looking to see if there was a mock-up of what the 2025-26 FAFSA looked like, the one for the seniors right now. And there was this website I got to, and it seemed pretty legit. And they're like, oh, please put in this code. And then it started to ask for like my personal information. Okay. So for parents out there that are trying to get a head start on this, unfortunately, there is going to be no head start. I tried to look for that information so I could show you guys, but it just seems like a scam. So don't put your information in those things, or else you're gonna get an email flood of, do you want to lose 50 pounds? And do you want to do this? And do you want to do that? So please don't do that. Once it is available, I will make sure to go ahead and share it with you guys. Okay. Now, as far as the FAFSA, the question is, what do you need in order to fill it out? Okay. So you need your appropriate year tax return. The tax return you need is going to be from the year that is 2 years before your student's graduation. So if they're graduating 2025, you need your 2023. If they're graduating in 2030, you need your 2028, so on and so forth, okay? You need your social security numbers, an email that you regularly check, and you need a phone number that can receive text messages and is not a VoIP or internet phone number, okay? So those are the things that you need in order to fill this out, right? They're going to ask about your income, tax returns, child support, alimony, the balance of your kind of different accounts, your business taxes, accounts there, records of untaxed income, and also the net worth of your investments, businesses, and if you have a farm, your farm. Okay. So you need to have basically your full tax return there. Okay. All of those kind of like little things you get in the mail. It's like, oh, this is for your taxes for 2023 and taxes for 2024. You need all those bits and pieces of paperwork because they might ask specific questions about that. Okay. So just looking at the form, I wanted to walk you through it. This is my own personal FAFSA, right? I took out all the, identifying information, so you guys don't need to worry, right? But here, okay, this is what you need to fill out. They're going to ask, are you a student or are you a parent, right? They're going to ask about your student's state of legal residence, right? So if your student was born in a state, right, then that is usually their state of legal residence. If the family moves and you guys get legal residence in a different state, then that would be the state, right? I was born, raised in California, right? Obviously, taking a vacation or leaving a state, for a short period of time does not mean that you're no longer a legal resident. Okay, so keep that in mind. You do need to kind of accept this and provide consent, right? Or else you're not going to be eligible for federal aid, right? Then they're going to ask about the student's personal circumstances, right? Their marital status, right? What year they're going to be in college, right? For the for the certain school year, right? They're going to ask about special circumstances, right? Some of these are like, was the student ever in foster care, a ward of the court, right? Were they homeless? Are they a veteran? So on and so forth, right? They're also going to ask about the risk of homelessness or kind of like if a student is self-supporting, right? They will ask about gender, right? They will ask about your ethnic background. Again, this has nothing to do with if you're going to get aid or not, right? I hope everyone understands that. It's just for survey purposes so that the government can know who's applying for aid. Okay. They're going to ask about your citizenship status, right? Now, there are three different kind of categories here, right? So there is a US citizen or national, right? There's eligible non-citizen, and there's neither US citizen nor eligible non-citizen, okay? So the US citizen or national should be fairly clear. Eligible non-citizens are basically people that have green cards or permanent residency in the United States, right? And then neither US citizen nor eligible non-citizen, this usually refers to DACA recipients, okay? So that's how it's going to be different. Then they're going to ask about parents' educational status, right? They're going to ask about, like what they are going to receive, right? High school diploma is usually the most common, but you might also be a GED recipient, right? Then they're going to ask about, are there any of these kind of like social welfare programs that you are a part of, right? If you are, go ahead and click those, right? They're going to ask about your tax filing status, right? Now, when I was applying to college, I didn't have a job that year that was important, right? I worked my senior year, right? Which was different, right? So I didn't have any taxes, so I didn't file anything, right? And then they're going to ask how many kids will be in college, right? Now, I'm not sure why they asked this question because schools that accept the FAFSA, generally speaking, they don't care if you have one kid in college, two kids in college, or 10 kids in college. A very good kind of example of that is the UCs, right? So whether you have one kid in college, two or 10 or 20, they don't give you a discount on it because you have multiple kids in college. Here's the thing. 3 years ago, they actually did, but they got rid of that. I guess they think the economy is doing super well for everybody, right? But they got rid of that discount that they used to give, okay? They're also going to ask you to enter the schools that you are applying to, okay? Now, if you see here, it says 0 out of 20, right? Because I didn't select any, but you are allowed to apply to 20 schools at a time. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh my God, 20 schools at a time? That is so many. How would anyone ever even fill that up? And some people might be asking, well, my kid has more than 20. What do we do if it's over? So let me tell you what you do if it's over. Okay. So if you just think about the UCs and a couple CSUs, you're already about at like 13 or 14 schools. A lot of students apply across the board at the UCs. That's 9 campuses, plus maybe 4 or 5 CSUs, right? That means that's already about 13 or 14. Maybe you're applying to 5 or 6 private schools. You're already at 20. Okay. Now, if you are over 20, you need to be very strategic about what you're turning in first and what you're turning in second. Okay. For the schools that maybe you're applying to early action or early decision, you put those ones in first because those are the ones that are gonna need it first, right? Obviously, for this year, it's a little bit different because it's delayed, right? But in a normal year is what I'm talking about. Okay. So you'll put in the first 20, you'll submit it, and you'll let it be processed. After it's processed, you can go in, make a correction, and then add the rest of your other schools that you have not added to your list yet, okay? You'll have to delete some schools, but it doesn't mean that that school didn't receive it. It means that they've already received it, and then you're going back and changing it out for a different school, okay? Now, the CSS profile. Let us talk about that. The CSS profile is used by almost 400 institutions, right? Now, very generally, I tell families to think about it that the CSS profile is something used by private schools. But a very good example of a public school that uses the CSS profile is University of Michigan. Okay, so if you're applying to University of Michigan, it is not like the UCs where you just turn in the FAFSA. It also requires the CSS profile. Okay, now I say this every time. The CSS is like the FAFSA on steroids, right? It's grown big, it's grown nasty, and it's grown evil, okay? But the website to find it is cssprofile.collegeboard.org. Yes, it is run by College Board, the same people that run the AP test and the SAT, okay? Now, the first thing that obviously you need to do is create an account. But most students, if they've gone through a public high school, probably already have an account. Okay. The reason why they probably already have an account is because a lot of schools have students take the PSAT, which requires you to have a College Board account. Okay. Now, here's one pro tip that I want to make sure that you guys understand. If your student has created a College Board account with their school, like high school email address, they need to change that right away. Okay. Because once you leave high school, they will not keep your email alive. And if you ever have to change your password, you're not going to be able to because you don't have access to that email. Okay, so keep that in mind there. Okay. Now, like the CSS or like the FAFSA, the CSS profile has a bunch of things that they ask you. But if you look at what they're asking you versus what the FAFSA was asking you, it's multiple. I think it's about 5 times as many questions versus the FAFSA. Okay. So they ask you personal information. That's going to be the same. But then they ask about additional parents, step parents, legal guardians, if you're an adoptive parent, right? They're also going to ask about other things like that. Now, with the lawsuit that they're currently a part of right now, the question becomes, are they actually going to ask about divorced parents if there's just one person that has custody? Okay. They're also asking about your housing information, about your home, right? They're going to ask about academic information, their parent details, right? Child support, housing information, how much you pay for rent, what's your mortgage, right? They're going to want to know about equity in your home, right? Parent assets, expenses, right? And then they're also going to want to know about kind of other people in the household, right? And then other special circumstances. But each of these categories has an additional 4 to 8 questions. So literally, I believe there's about 280 questions that you need to answer on the CSS profile. Okay. Now, how does it really differ? Well, I kind of went over them, right? They ask about the value of your home. They ask about your mortgage. They ask about your retirement and your investments. I just got a message from someone, right? I had a consultation with them about, I don't know, 2, 3 months ago, right? I told them, hey, I can help in your situation. They're like, no, I'll take care of myself, right? And then they got to the CSS and they reached out to me with a question and they said, well, I didn't know that they asked about retirement. And I was like, yeah, I told you that during our consultation. They're going to ask about your retirement. That's why I asked about it during the consultation, right? So again, don't be surprised, right? Be here every week and we'll give you the answers, right? They're going to ask about your business. They're going to ask about your assets, child support, alimony, right? It's basically an IRS tax audit, right? But it's a little bit nicer than that because there's no one kind of like going through your paperwork. It's just kind of the system doing it, right? But it is pretty invasive. Okay. Now, the one thing I want people to remember is that we are here to help. Okay. We want to make sure that you know what college expenses are. We want to make sure that you learn the strategies to maximize your financial aid. And we also want to talk to you and give you a consultation about what your family could possibly save, right? About 80% of the families that I meet, they're like, oh, yeah, we're not going to get anything, but I'm still here. And I'm like, no, who told you that? Right? Because every time I talk to a family, it's like, no, there's opportunities for you here, and here. And it's like, oh my God, we never thought about that. And I was like, yeah, well, that's why you're here, right? But there are also a lot of families that never reach out to us. They come to our trainings and they're like, oh, yeah, that seems like nice for those other people, right? And then they never show up for a consultation. What ends up happening with those families is that they go through the process, they get the results, and then they're like, oh, well, maybe we'll talk to them now. Once you get your results back, once you have touched a form, once you have turned in your FAFSA or your CSS or this or that, it's too late for me to help in most situations. So please do not delay. I see a lot of 12th graders here. If your 12th graders are here, right, or for those families, you need to reach out to me if you haven't had a consultation, like in the next 5 days. Okay. If there isn't time, I will make time early in the morning. I will make time late at night to make sure that I can talk to your families so that we can get you on the right track. Okay. Now, I do want to share a little bit about our success stories, right? I shared these for the last 3 weeks. And some people came into the consultations being like, oh my God, that's not true. And I'm like, it is, right? And it's like, here's the screenshot, right? So for this family, for Penn, right? I was able to save them $44,000 a year, right? They're going to Penn, a private school, an Ivy League school, for less than it costs to go to a UC nowadays. Okay. For this student, I was able to lower their cost every quarter at UCLA, like fall, winter, spring. They're paying $6,000, under $6,000. That's it. Okay. For this family that went to Pomona College, I saved them almost $58,000. They're going to a private liberal arts college for less than it would cost to go to a CSU. Okay. These are all things that are possible, but we need to make sure that we have the time to strategize and that we fully understand your situation so that we can give you the right advice. Okay. All right. And so, right, I do want to open it up for Q&A. I do see some questions in the Q&A and in the chat, right? So if you guys have, a phone, you can take a quick picture of the QR code, right? And for those that are still here, don't leave yet because I have a special offer and it's only going to be available for people that are here today. Okay. So if you're watching our replay, I am sorry, but right, we will be, try to be at the next one so you can take advantage of other discounts we might be having. Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording here. We'll move on to Q&A with our families. And then also I will explain the offer that we're having. Okay. All right. So everyone have a great night.